and welcome, Hoosier fans, to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important topics in the world of Indiana basketball. This is our 217th edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 717th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of June 17th, 2021. I'm your host, the coach, Brian Tonsoni. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call, how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Smart takes a shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment occurred this entire past week with the beginning of the summer period of the college basketball schedule. On-court workouts began. Cliff Marshall is doing his work in the weight room and on the sand pit. Recruits are able to make official and unofficial visits on campus again. Indiana basketball has made a lot of positive changes since the end of last season. Fans are excited again, and now we are beginning to see the new staff at work for real. A new roster is exciting, but each player needs to improve their game, learn new terminology, and accept new roles, and that's what the summer is all about. These players need to continue to develop their bodies, learn to shoot better, and do what they can to help Indiana basketball return to prominence. The roster is a constant work in progress, and this past week we saw quite a few players come to campus to visit the program. The workouts, the visits are all important aspects of winning. Just like the first few months of Coach Woodson's regime, the summer seems to be going well, and let's hope that it continues and Indiana basketball finds its winning ways. Okay, let me introduce my esteemed co-hosts for tonight. Ryan and Andy are both off this week. They should be back next week. Filling in as one of the most trusted names on the IU basketball beat, the man who has been running inside the hall for well over a decade. He's also the proud fan of the team with the best record in Major League Baseball, the Chicago White Sox. Congratulations, Alex. That hurts me to say that, but I'm happy for you. Alex, your thoughts on the state of Indiana basketball this summer?
Well, first of all, Coach, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Always fun to come on the show. And the White Sox may not have the best record after this weekend. They're in Houston for a 4-game series, so we'll see how that goes. But in terms of IU basketball, it's been obviously a busy week just from a recruiting standpoint. But you mentioned just kind of getting back to the workouts, and I think the biggest thing is everybody getting back into a routine within the program. I think one thing that obviously it's different with a new coaching staff and people, everyone trying to get familiar with their bearings. But at the same time, I think for these players, with the uncertainty that they've had to go through the last couple of years, getting on a routine and getting a schedule, and it's been nice to see all of the tweets and information that's been disseminated with them working out with Cliff Marshall. It seems like they've really gotten to work there with the off-season strength and conditioning program. So I think more than anything else, this is an exciting time for IU fans because they're excited about the future of the program for the first time, really, I would say, since 2018 or so when Romeo Langford signed. I mean, this is the most optimism that there's been about IU basketball in a long time. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Mike Woodson is somebody that a lot of people can relate to because he was an IU guy. He grew up in Indiana, and so far he's really pushed all the right buttons just in terms of getting this thing off on the right foot, and having this trip coming up for Atlantis in August, I think is also kind of excited people a little bit more in terms of being able to have something to look forward to, get a sneak peek of the season. So overall, I mean, I'm just glad that it seems like we're trending back towards a more normal season next year overall in college basketball.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just seems normal. Again, recruits coming and seeing the workout videos and just everything that's happened since Coach Woodson's got here has really pushed me back to the times of winning ways. So that's a positive. And here's what we're going to cover this week. Hoosier headlines, a lot of recruiting news. We'll go over that here in just a second. The second segment, our main topic, with off-season workouts now, Alex and I will discuss what skills beyond shooting and maybe even including shooting, that each player needs to develop their strengths, what we expect, what their weaknesses are, and maybe what we would do to help them improve. And then, of course, we'll answer your questions in segment 3. All of that is coming up this week on Assembly Call Radio. We have no ad for this week, but just buy something for the dad in your life, your dad or a special dad that you know. Father's Day is coming up Sunday. Make sure you support them. I also want to say just take care of each other. I really appreciate our Assembly Call Nation and chat mob and friends locally that supported my wife and I during the last 2 weeks of her surgery. It's just been a blessing to hear kind words, but let's just generally take care of each other. And that's what Indiana people do. And that's what Hoosiers do, is take care of each other. So enjoy Father's Day, buy something special for that special dude in your life. Here we go. Let's hit the Hoosier headlines. Recruiting. There were some visits. Caleb Banks, Kyle Filipowski, and Justin Turner all visited. Jalen Hoods-Schifino is scheduled for June 28th. And then some new offers came out. Caleb Glenn, Jeremy Fears, and Cohen Carr, 2023 prospects, all have been offered recently. And we'll get Alex's take on some of that recruiting news here in just a second. And then the other piece of news is Northern Kentucky was added to the schedule. We have Merrimack on the schedule, Northern Kentucky, plus the obligations that with the conference tie-ins and the Crossroad Classics. So we're starting to get a little bit of a non-conference schedule to go with the opponents that we know in the Big Ten schedule, and it's just creeping closer and closer to basketball season. So, Alex, let's go back to the recruiting. You talked about getting back into that routine, and Indiana's doing that. We're seeing the golf carts out. We're seeing pictures of recruits coming to campus. Some high-quality young men coming to visit, and Coach Woodson getting a chance to pitch Indiana basketball. What can you share with us about those visits that have taken place?
Yeah, well, obviously, it's been a busy couple of weeks, starting with the Caleb Banks visit. Had a chance to talk to his mom after that visit, and it was clear to me that she was very impressed with just the facilities at Indiana. I think a lot of times people talk about the facilities at Indiana in a negative light and maybe dwell on some of the things that aren't good, but without realizing that a lot of things there that are very good. And I'm not sure if this is just from somebody coming from the South, where basketball isn't kind of the same as what it is in Big Ten country, but it's clear to me that they were very impressed with just everything in terms of the facilities, and Caleb himself too called it a player's dream. So really, in terms of a endorsement from a recruit coming out of a visit, that's just about as strong of comments as you could get. Justin Taylor this morning had a chance to talk at length with his mom, who played college basketball herself. She's a lawyer. Her daughter played college basketball. Her dad played at Duke. So she knows the ins and outs of the game. And I know, Coach, you were impressed with some of her words that she
Absolutely.
put together just in terms of the X's and O's. It showed me that she was really invested in terms of learning as much as she could from the visit, taking everything she could from it, not just showing up and kind of going through the motions. She was there to ask questions and learn and kind of get a feel for the atmosphere. Very impressed. I think she was very impressed as well. And then Kyle Filipowski, I talked to his high school coach today, Mike Mannix out of Wilbraham and Munson Academy, which is up in the New England area. It's been a real busy month for Kyle just in terms of visits. With like all these guys, they haven't been able to go anywhere in terms of college visits for 15 months. And he's one of the guys that this spring really kind of blew up and kind of got a little bit more pub nationally. And there was a ton of schools interested in having him on campus. He's still got some more visits lined up the rest of the month, but it was clear too from talking to his high school coach that Indiana made a really strong impression. So, it's hard sometimes to, read between the lines when you're talking to these parents, coaches, players afterwards, because there's really not a lot of instances where a visit's going to go bad so to speak. You'd probably have to intentionally try to screw something up, right? Because you can plan everything out, and you know what you're going to show. You have an itinerary. You know, you're going to take them out to eat. You're going to let them see the living facilities. You're going to let them go into assembly hall. Sorry, excuse me. You're going to let them try on the uniform, do photo shoots, all that kind of stuff, right? That stuff is fun. But you know, I think just from talking to all people connected to all three of these recruitments, as I had and kind of wrote about, I think, you know, it's genuine, and I think that they did really feel, you know, good about the visits. Does that mean that Indiana's going to get any of these kids, all these kids? No, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, you can do a heck of a job recruiting a kid, and you know, you get beat by one school, right? They don't give you a prize for finishing second in recruiting. You can put all this time and effort in and do a great job, and you finish second. So, you know, people always want to they want, you know, the crystal ball 24/7. People like to look at that and entertainment, but ultimately I think it comes down to relationships always, and where a kid feels most comfortable, and you know, the official visits, these coaches, I mean, you know, Syracuse, schools like that, Duke, I mean, these places, they know how to put together a good visit too. So it's definitely a competitive world. And I think the one good thing that, looking specifically at Taylor and Filipowski, you look at the list of schools that they're considering, in addition to Indiana, these are schools that are really kind of at the top of the heap in college basketball in many ways. And those are kind of the schools that you're going to have to beat out if you want to get the best kids that can make an impact.
A couple things that stood out to me, Alex, was and you know, go to Inside the Hall, everyone. Read, there's some excellent write-ups on these visits, and they're very informative. Good stuff, Alex, by the way. I really appreciate your work. But Coach Woodson sitting next to people at dinner, and having a conversation, that was mentioned somewhere in things. And then the Evolve and the South End Zone, the nutrition, all of that being local, these are some common threads that I'm seeing in different articles and different mentions about recruiting that I'm reading. And I think those are just good signs for Indiana basketball. I think one of the things that has happened in the past is that, you know, the head coach might not have been as involved in recruiting as he should have been. And Coach Woodson is sitting down there and really being seen as a true person who cares. It was just said in the chat with Brett that our coaches seem to excel at relationships. And that's coming through in these comments from parents and players and coaches, that if we get these guys, it's going to be because of the relationship. Obviously, the basketball part is huge in that as well. But and then kudos going out to whoever was sunbathing at Evolve, because you know, Mrs. Taylor said that her son was quite impressed with the Evolve apartments and the pool atmosphere. So, you know, whatever it takes to maybe land a few of these guys. But those common things, I think, Alex, really play. What I've been so impressed with Coach Woodson is his ability to collaborate and his ability to just want to build that family back to what we know Indiana basketball is all about. What kind of vibe do you get in a kind of a summary of talking to these guys and their families?
Yeah, I mean, family atmosphere, down to earth, easy to talk to. Those are the words that you hear the most when talking to these parents and kids about Mike Woodson, somebody that they can relate to. And Taylor's mom, I thought, made a very interesting point in just that, you know, despite everything that he's accomplished as a player, you know, all these guys, he's worked with these pros and everything, but, you know, he's easy to talk to, easy to relate to. And that's, you know, I think that means something, just to be viewed as a regular guy that you can have a conversation with, somebody that's approachable, somebody that wants to, she mentioned too about, you know, she really got the sense that Mike Woodson would be somebody that would want to have a relationship with a player beyond those 4 years at the school. And this isn't to take a shot at Archie Miller or anything, but I think that's something that has been missing from Indiana basketball. I didn't get the sense, and you know, I don't talk to a lot of former players, but I talked to some, but I don't get the sense that was something that was really happening, just in terms of a lot of communication once a guy left the program. It didn't seem to me like guys were really coming back and being around things all that much. And I think one thing that Mike Woodson's talked about from the beginning is everybody always being welcome to come back and kind of reuniting the family. And I think it's one thing to say that, but to actually carry it out and do it, I have confidence that that's something that Mike Woodson's going to really emphasize and follow through on.
And Alex, it's got to be on your agenda for the day to do that too. Like you said something right there. It just can't be something you say in public and then not follow through. But I think that's very, very important in building a collegiate program. I think it's important in our high school program. We always welcome players after they graduate to come back and talk to the team and do things like that. And that's how you create that long-lasting culture. That word culture is overused a lot in sports now about building that culture. It is important, but it's just overused every time a new coach is hired. But this is part of Coach Woodson, and I really think those things are going to matter. Now, whether that means these three guys come to Indiana or not, like you said, there's a variety of reasons for these kids to select schools. And if Indiana finishes second, it doesn't mean that Coach Woodson didn't do everything he could to get them to come. But I do want to talk about one more thing here in this segment from Justin Taylor's mom. She talked about watching some workouts and some practice and some things while she was on campus. And she had played basketball and obviously has basketball background with her daughter and family, as you mentioned. But she talked about they haven't put in offense yet. And they've been able to do on-court workouts, individual and whatever the NCAA rules are for now a week. And she talked specifically about guarding the ball screens and switching and rotating differently than what has been done in the past. And so she picked that up. And if the pros, they do a lot of rotation defense instead of just one-man switches or two-man switches. And so it's just a couple things. I thought it was good he's working on defense first because that was my main concern, can these guys guard? And second, I really like bringing some of that NBA-style defense, defensive ideas to cover things differently. And so the three-man switch is something, if you want to Google it, Golden State runs it, where a switch is just I take your man and you take mine, but now a third guy comes in, and what it does is when the big man rolls to the basket, you have a big covering the roll, and the guy guarding the ball screen runs to the wing. It's a really unique way to guard the ball screen, and we've all been clamoring for better ball screen defense for a long time. So her comments there, and the other thing was conditioning with basketball drills, trying to teach the defensive concepts of probably closing out, sprinting to help, recovering, getting back on defense as part of their conditioning. Really like that defensive mindset. That's the kind of coach I am. Yes, I want to see the three ball go in, but those are some things I thought were really important for a parent to pick up of a recruit. But I think that we as fans can get a little bit of insight into some of the ins and outs of what Coach Woodson wants to do from her comments.
Yeah, originally when I started talking to her, I was going to write a story, and then by the end of the conversation, I said to her, "Do you mind if I just run this as a Q&A, a full transcript?" She said that's fine, but the reason I wanted to include all that is because I learned something, because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what Indiana basketball is going to look like moving forward. I mean, we can ask Mike Woodson all these questions and get answers, but until we actually see it in motion. Yeah. And this was coming from somebody that knows basketball and saw it in motion. So I thought it was really interesting, all the details that she shared and kind of how she described it. And I kind of learned some things from her. So it's definitely, I think I speak for most Indiana basketball observers that like to watch the program. It's going to be nice, I think, to get away from the pack line defense. As much as everybody tried to accept it and like it, I just think there was so many things that were wrong with that system. And it was funny a couple weeks ago when we talked to Woodson, him asking about like what is the pack line, and I'm sure you guys talked about that over the last couple weeks on the show. But I think it's going to be a welcome change just to go to a more modern style and something that's definitely. I mean, you're trying to send guys to the NBA. What better way than to kind of bring a system that has a lot of NBA components in it, and something that guys are going to be able to play when they go to the next level. I can't think of very many guys that are going to the NBA and playing the pack line.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether he forces middle, forces baseline, those little intricate pieces of defense. We've all been talking about this magical 4-out, 1-in. We really don't know what that is either. But now that they're starting to work on the court, and people are starting to share comments like the Taylor mom did, Carrie Taylor, you can see some insights in that. But again, I really have liked what he said about defense. I just can't wait to see some of it in action. So coming up on Assembly Call Radio, off-season workouts have begun, and we're going to talk about what that might look like for each player, talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, and what we might suggest they work on as we go down the roster in our estimation. Stick with us here on the Assembly Call. All right. Hello, everyone in the chat mob. Thanks for joining us on a summer Thursday. Keep trying to find things to talk about, and we have some good recruiting news. We went over that, and now we're going to go over just a little bit of some expectations as we see it. Obviously, we're not in the gym and those things. Before that, I do want to just shout out to everyone in the chat mob for your well wishes to me and Mrs. Tonsoni in her surgery and medical concerns. She is doing fantastic and is cancer-free. We just got pathology reports, and so she's back to normal. So, not back to normal totally. She still has some things she has to monitor and do for another week or so, but just been great to hear from so many of you. Appreciate it quite a bit. So we got Alex on. Jay is now, Hori is going to join us. Let me get Jay in here. Hi, Jay. How you doing, bud?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us? Before we hit the record?
There we go.
All right. Good. Very good. All right. We're going to try to speed through this a little bit here. Try to get done around 10, a little after 10. So we're going to head into segment 2. So here we go, fellas.
What's going on? It's Christian Wofford. What's the only thing better than an epic buzzer beater? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join my guys, Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Call after every IU game. Go Hoosiers.
Welcome back to the Assembly Call. How do you keep up with the fire hose of information that comes out almost every day about IU basketball? It's crazy during this offseason, and especially this season. Well, we've got your back. We send out a free weekly email newsletter on Sunday mornings. It rounds up the most important and interesting IU basketball stories from the previous week to keep you up to date on your Hoosiers. We have over 8,000 IU fans on the list, and we want you to be there too. So go to join.assemblycall.com to subscribe for free right now. That's join.assemblycall.com. You can also text IU to 66866. That's IU to 66866. Okay. I'm Coach Brian Tonsoni here with Alex Bozich of Inside the Hall and Jay Hori of the Mediocre Question fame. And so I thought real quick, we'll try to run through this as quick as possible. We have 13 players, and we could probably have a segment on each player. But the offseason is here. Coach Woodson's back in the gym, and the NCAA allows a certain number of hours each week for the players to work. We obviously know the team needs to work on shooting all the way around the board. Even the good shooters need to get better at shooting. But we're going to look at the players, what we see as their strength, maybe their weakness, and something that you would suggest to the coaching staff maybe that each player needs to work on. And we'll just go quick around the round table and see where we go. So let's start off with the main guy, Trace Jackson Davis. Alex, what can we expect from him next year, and what do you think is a weakness that is obvious for you that he needs to work on?
Coach, before I start here, I want to say it's nice to have another New Albany man on the show with me tonight. So we finally got to the point where we've got a Southern Indiana takeover of assembly call. But yeah, no.
Yeah, now we just need Romeo on here, and then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, good to see you, Jay.
Good to see us.
Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, coming into the season, he's going to be in the conversation for Big Ten Player of the Year, right? So it's not like you say there's a ton of things to work on, but I would say obviously the right hand has to get better. That's just a no-brainer. I'd like to see him be a better rebounder, more aggressive. I mean, I think, if you're a really, really aggressive guy around the rim and in the paint, you can easily pick up a couple of cheap baskets every game just by pursuing rebounds harder and being more aggressive in the paint. So those obviously the right hand is the number one thing that sticks out, but I would like to see him be a little bit more aggressive going to the glass. Jay?
I want to see Trace become a really good rim protector. I think he gets, I think the blocks that he gets are usually on-ball defense. I want to see him be able to defend the pick and roll. And, I heard you talking about how we might play the pick and roll, coach, but I want to see him be able to defend the pick and roll, get back into the lane and change and challenge shots at the rim. I think a lot of times we gave up so many layups. It felt like just guys easily get into the rim because teams put Trace in one pick and roll action, and then he could never recover. So I want to see him be able to handle that pick and roll and then really, really add that rim protection that I think this team really needs.
I'm going to comment. Denny Brown in the chat says about the layups sometimes that he missed. I think Trace Jackson Davis needs to get better post position, better angles so that he can make a move and go strong to the basket instead of always trying to go through someone's chest and over some of the bigger guys. So I think post positioning is something that I might suggest. And then we're going to spend a lot of time on shooting, but he needs to be able to pick and pop and elevate from the elbows and the short corners. And really be aggressive. You saw him at times take that, but I thought he was real hesitant. It's got to be an automatic that if he catches at that elbow and has, some space to be able to shoot that. I'm not interested in seeing him shoot the three because I don't think that's beneficial for Indiana. But if he can shoot the 15-footer, he's going to help Indiana, and he's going to show the pros that he can develop that as time goes on. All right, next on the list is Race Thompson. Jay, we'll start with you. What would you like to see Race get better at over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Race is the obvious one. If he can hit the three, if he can be that stretch four that this offense is going to really rely on, I think it kind of takes his team to another level. Because he brings everything else: defense, toughness, rebounding. He can score in the post, but if he can step out and hit that long jumper, I think that really elevates this team's ceiling.
Alex, Race.
Yeah, I agree with Jay on the 3-point shooting, and kind of to follow up on that. I mean, I remember watching him in 2017 down in Dallas when he was playing with D1 Minnesota. Really, when Indiana started to first recruit him, he was more than comfortable shooting from the mid-range and even stepping out and taking the three. I think a lot of that is just confidence and kind of being given the green light to do that. And I think if Mike Woodson is going to want to play those two guys together, one of them is going to have to be able to shoot the three reliably. Otherwise, you're back into the same position that we were before in terms of clogging up the paint. So that's definitely one thing. And then I think just free throw shooting. I mean, you're going to be that aggressive at the rim and get fouled and go at guys. You got to be able to step up to the line and make free throws. It doesn't really do Indiana that much good to get fouled that often and then not be able to make free throws.
If he's going to play the four, I think in our show with Rob Doster a few weeks ago, we were talking about you got to be a threat to hit the three in college basketball. And it's almost to a point where you had the Filipowski kid in as a 6'11" shooter. You almost need your fives to shoot threes anymore. I don't think we have a couple right now that can do that, but that's the area. He has to be a threat if he's going to be able to play the four. Then he's going to have to guard some, be able to guard and on some pick and rolls, guard quicker guys too from that four position. Here's an important player. I'll start this one, and then we'll go to Alex and around Rob Finney. Rob needs to just find his confidence. I think he has shown an ability to guard. I think he has shown an ability to handle the basketball and be an assist maker. But I think he just needs to gain confidence and be more aggressive, be ready to shoot when he's open. And you need to put him in positions this summer to gain that confidence back if Indiana's going to get anything out of him. And so I know that's not necessarily a basketball skill, but you can be a good shooter, good dribbler, good defender, but if you don't play with confidence, that's going to limit you. So that's a big thing and then understanding what role he's going to be with Xavier coming in. What's his role? And he's got to understand that. But, the other thing, well, I'll see what you guys say and I'll add it on. Go ahead, Alex.
I would just say overall, you make a really good point with his confidence, but I would like to see just him be a little bit more aggressive just in terms of looking for his offense. This year, if he's going to be playing off the ball a little bit with Xavier Johnson with the ball in his hands a little bit more, he's going to have to be aggressive and willing to take shots when they're there and have the confidence to make them. So that kind of falls in line with what you said in terms of just the confidence. And the other thing I would say is it's clear to me that Dane Fife is expecting a lot more from him defensively. He wants to see him kind of get back to the guy we saw the first couple of years. I think he got a little bit away from that this season. He needs to kind of get back being able to kind of differentiate himself as one of the better defenders in the Big Ten moving forward, if he wants to maintain the playing time that he's had his first couple of years. Because let's face it, it's not going to be like the last two seasons where guys are just handed minutes. It's going to be a lot more competitive to get those minutes. And if you're not getting the job done, you're going to be replaced by somebody that will.
Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Rob, so much of what the good things he can do start on the defensive end, as you said, Alex. I mean, I think he really has to embrace being the on-ball point of attack defender and try to disrupt everything that the other team's doing. I think if he can be successful doing that, I think his confidence will grow overall. And I, as you mentioned, Coach, I think he's going to play a lot more off the ball. He's got to be ready to catch the ball and shoot it. He's got to be ready to catch the ball, pump fake, get by the defender, get in the lane, drop it to the dunker spot, things like that. So I think he has to, as you said, be in attack mode and on both sides of the ball, whether it's guarding the other team's point guard or being ready to really create something on the offensive end when the ball gets to him.
He's going to have to be a good decision maker with pace. He was too cautious, and whether that was scheme, whether that was pressure on running certain offenses last year, which it could well be the reason, and maybe Coach Woodson coming and wanting his point guards and his guards to be in attack mode a little bit more than what was in the last 4 years. That might just be the solution, but he's got to play and be more aggressive, getting north-south if he's going to play, because this next guy, that's his strength. Xavier Johnson, from watching his tape, that dude gets in the lane, and he likes to score at the rim, and he likes to dish, and he's really good at it. Alex, some things that, again, we haven't seen these next four guys as transfers in. We haven't really seen them play in Indiana uniforms, so we might have seen them briefly on 6-minute videos or whatever. But, boy, Xavier is going to be that guy that goes north-south, which Indiana has missed quite a bit recently, but something that you think he might need to pay attention to this summer.
Yeah, I mean, turnovers are one thing that he's really got to get better at. Talking to somebody that watched him closely at Pitt, that was kind of the main thing that they had when I asked them just kind of how he translates to Indiana in the Big Ten, and they said, he's a super talented guy, capable of doing a lot of things, but is just doesn't always value the ball as well as he needs to. And I think that's going to be something that's very important. It's great that he can get out and transition. It's great that he can create for others. I think he needs to get better with the shooting, but I don't necessarily think they're really counting on him to be that knockdown 3-point shooter, but he's got to be able to take care of the ball and not turn it over. And I think that's the biggest thing that kind of stands out looking at his numbers.
Jay.
Yeah, I want to see what he's like on the defensive end. I mean, I've watched a few full games of his, but mostly highlights, and I want to see him because I think most of the time he'll be on the floor probably guarding the 2 guy. So he might be guarding a guy that's a little bigger than he is, even though Xavier's still a pretty big, strong kid. But I think he'll probably be guarding the 2 guy with either if he's on the floor with Lander or if he's on the floor with Fennessy, those guys will probably be guarding the point guard. So I want to see him really become a good wing defender. I mean, he has all the tools. He's a very good athlete. He's a strong guy. I mean, I think it's just, and he has the drive and the effort. I mean, he guy plays hard. So I want to see him really, really be a good defender.
The turnovers that Alex mentioned are the are the main concern for me. He's gotten better every year in his assist to turnover ratio. Last year it was 1.7, but an acceptable college guard is 2-1. Assist to turnovers. A really good point guard is 3 or 4-1. So he's got a lot of room to work there. And I think some of it might have been that he felt pressure to make things happen for Pitt. And he might not need to do that with Trace Jackson Davis and some other players around him. I'm hoping that frees him up to make the simple plays, the aggressive but simple plays, instead of trying to hit home runs. The few turnovers I saw in the brief film that I looked at, it just seemed like he made the right it was the right idea, but he tried too hard to make it happen between, a couple people, or he just didn't execute a pass here. He's too in a hurry. The other thing that concerns me is that there was some mention too about his emotion. And I think there were some technical foul issues and some things, and that might have led to the disagreement between him and coach at Pitt. But I think Kenya Hunter has had a great relationship with him, and I'm really counting on Kenya and Coach Woodson, who's coached NBA Egos, to really work on that and improve that. So those are some things I think that Xavier. Jay, we'll start with you, Parker Stewart.
Coach, one more thing on Xavier, on the emotions and the technicals too. It sucks to play on a bad team. Playing on a bad team is not fun. And if you're the guy
competitive.
Losing's not fun. And if you're the only guy, if you're the best guy on the team and you're trying to take it all upon yourself, that can be really frustrating. So I think that might be a little overblown on the emotional, technical foul stuff.
Sure. And again, a change of scenery sometimes changes that easily too. You get to a place where it's a lot better. But this next guy, I am really excited about watching, because I just don't know a lot about him. But boy, and I'm not a big Instagram guy and the sandpit guy. I want to see wins and that. But the weight room really does matter. And boy, he looks strong. Like Cliff Marshall's really done some work with him. That's Parker Stewart. So Jay, your thoughts on what he brings, strengths, and maybe what you'd like him to work on, or what you want to see from him next year.
Yeah, we all know that Parker can score the ball. He can shoot it he can get to the rim. He can score at all three levels. A really kind of crafty scorer. Any guy that can score double digits as a freshman in the ACC, he can score. And then he's 2.5 or 3 years removed from that now. So I think I'm expecting him to come in and be a really big threat to score the ball every time he touches it. I don't know, obviously when he was at his last stop, everything ran through him. He had the ball in his hands. He had an incredibly high usage rate. I'm interested to see kind of how he does off the ball. Is his off the ball movement kind of what you want from that wing player who's ready to catch and shoot, who's can one dribble shoot, can get his guy off balance and get into the lane. So I'm interested to see how he plays off the ball.
Alex, Parker Stewart.
I would say defensively is where I have my most question about him, because I just don't know what to expect. I've watched obviously a little bit of film on him. I haven't watched anything in depth, and so I don't know what type of defender he is. I know he can obviously shoot the ball and score, which has a ton of value on a Indiana team that hasn't been able to do that with any reliability the last couple of years. But he's going to have to be able to hold his own defensively. It's not like there's an all defensive backcourt that he's going to have to supplant, but he's going to have to at least be average to above average, I think, to kind of play the minutes that many people are expecting him to. So that's really my biggest question. And I'm not saying that he's not capable of that. I just haven't watched him play enough, or kind of he's obviously didn't play last season at all. So I don't have a great feel for what he looks like on that end. So that's kind of my biggest question. And obviously we know he can score. So we'll see how he is defensively.
Yeah, I would have to second that. Can he play defense? And the Big Ten is a whole different thing too from some of the leagues where you come in, and even in the ACC, a quality league like that, but half the league is somewhat not as good as the 14 teams that or the 13 teams in the Big Ten that Indiana has to play, and it's a more physical game too. So. Defense for me is something.
He was also on some bad, Jay mentioned Xavier Johnson playing on some bad Pitt teams. Parker Stewart was on bad Pitt teams too. So
basically, if you've been at Pitt recently, you've been on bad teams. That's what we're saying.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And then you're going to transfer to IU. So we take the best of that. This next guy, I don't know a whole lot about. We'll throw it to Alex. But the big 7-footer, Michael Durr, what's he going to bring? And what kind of things do you think he needs to add to his game?
Well, I mean, I wrote that kind of piece a couple weeks ago, just breaking down his game, looking at some of the numbers. I mean, I think he needs to get better finishing his twos. I mean, his 2-point field goal percentage is a little bit lower than what you would have liked. But then again, I don't know what the quality of looks that he was getting necessarily at South Florida. Not a great team. At Indiana, he may be a little bit less reliant on kind of creating for his own, maybe a beneficiary of other guys setting him up and getting open looks. But that to me, the biggest thing with him is just going to be for a guy that's likely going to be a backup. Obviously, I think the efficiency and being able to come in and finish plays when you get your opportunity, and also defend and block shots at a reasonably good level. I don't think his block percentage, looking at it, wasn't particularly high on Ken Palm, but when I watched film of him, he seemed to challenge shots pretty well. So that can be just as valuable, even if you don't block the shot, if you can alter the shot or make guys uncomfortable, I think that can be obviously just as valuable. And he seemed to be pretty good there. But I think really, out of any backup big, those are the kind of things you look for. Can you finish plays when you get it open at the rim, and can you challenge guys defensively? I mean, because that, to me, that's his value is really centered upon what he can give defensively, and if he can give Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis a break without having a huge drop off when he's on the floor.
Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton to add from what Alex just said. I mean, I think, you from a backup big, he needs to be able to catch the ball, he needs to be able to dunk the ball, and then he needs to be able to, maybe pick up a couple fouls against the other team's bigs. And, basically you don't want his minutes to be a negative. If he's on the court, it usually means Trace is off the court. So he needs to come in and be able to maintain a certain level of play. And so the team can let Trace rest. So he has time to get. So he's not out there 40 minutes a night getting drug around the place. So I think I have hopes that Durr can do that. I think he was a good add just for the sake of getting another body that can play the 5.
You talk about scoring in the post, Alex. To me, one of the most undercoached things in college basketball and high school basketball is post positioning. So many times the teams rely on the athleticism, throw it in and then jump over someone, try a jump hook, and you see guys going through. I said about Trace Jackson Davis, they catch the ball, they turn into the defense, and then they throw some crap up at the rim and don't finish, instead of really we call it sealing in, sealing out, and really using your rear end to get position and get an angle. And when you catch the ball, you got the defender on your back and can score a little bit easier because you have a path to the basketball. And that's something that I think we're going to watch the development. You talk about individual development. Your work in the post is done before you catch the ball. If you do work early, you're going to be able to score at a higher percentage and shoot a higher percentage from the post. And sometimes I think Indiana post players have just relied on their athletic ability, and it just looks awkward when you just fling something up over extended, walled up hands of defenders. So let's hope that our post players do that. Miller Kopp, another transfer in from Northwestern, obviously need him to get back to his shooting form of the first couple years. And some of that was because he was heavily scouted as a main player at Northwestern and was probably taken away from what he wanted to do the most. Interesting for me, the question for me, guys, is he going to be a 3 or is he going to be able to play the 4? Is he strong enough to guard the 4? Can he play that position? That's where I'd like him to, because I want to go small. Personally, I like guards. Even as a big guy, it's a guards game. I'd like to see him play some 4 and really stretch a couple shooters out around. But I think from offensive, he needs to be able to score off the bounce and be a threat to get in and bully his way in, drop step, and score from the wing in the post. Jay, your thoughts on Miller Kopp?
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I mean, we know he can shoot the ball. He shot the ball well before. He shot at very high percentage at a high volume. Not particularly last year, but at least the year before that. Yeah, I'd like to, and you've seen him do glimpses of where he can get into the lane and create something in the lane. Definitely want to see more of that from him, because I think we're going to have. I think with the talent that we have on offense, I think we could get defenses in a scrambling position pretty quickly. And so once we get the defense scrambling, we need guys who can get into the lane, either make the right pass or make the shot or kick it out to the open shooter. So I want to see Kopp be able to make those correct decisions once he gets chased off the 3-point line. Because I think most teams, that's how they're going to play him. They're going to try to close out on him hard and make him get off that 3-point line.
Alex Miller Kopp.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get open looks in far more volume than he ever did at Northwestern, just by the fact that he's going to be on a better team with more talent around him. I mean, he was, the number 2, 3 guy, whatever you want to call him, at Northwestern the last couple of years. So he was at the top of the scouting report. When he's playing next season for Indiana, that's not going to be the case. So, teams are going to have to choose what they want to do with him, and he's not going to be the first thing that they're trying to stop. So I'm not too worried about him making shots. I want to see what he can do defensively, and I also want to see rebounding. His rebounding numbers weren't necessarily all that great. That was something when he first committed. He said Woodson talked to him about. He's going to have to get better at. Coach, you mentioned him playing the 4. If he's going to play the 4, he's going to have to rebound a lot better than he has before. So those are the things with me. But I think he's going to get, 2 or 3 wide open threes a game. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not he can knock those down, because you're not going to be able to focus on him like teams were when he was at Northwestern.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he ends up playing. Can he guard the 3? He's played a lot of 3 at Northwestern from when I went back and watched tape on him. But I'd like to see him play the 4, but there's some things he's going to have to do. Christian Lander, Alex, your thoughts on where he needs to get better?
I think he just needs to get experience. I mean, he didn't, one of the things I'm looking forward to most this year about getting back to a regular schedule where you have those 5 or 6 games against, you want to call them bye games, you want to call them guarantee games, whatever you want to call them. To me, this year they're going to be important, because not only are you bringing a new system, a new team together, but you're bringing some guys along that haven't really played all that much at the college level. I think those are the games where you kind of have to get him in there and get him some confidence. That was the biggest thing that kind of held him back last year. I don't have any questions really about his talent. I mean, just in terms of his floor, kind of his ability to see the floor and his talent, I think is top notch. But I just want to see him get the opportunity and get some confidence. And I think that's the biggest thing for him. I mean, he's got to get stronger, obviously, and kind of maybe mature a little bit because he did come into college basketball younger than most freshmen. But to me, the biggest thing for him is just experience and getting comfortable with the new system and getting a chance to get out there and make some mistakes and play through it.
Alex, that's where I think, we've talked about in the recruiting segment about Coach Woodson being someone who could talk and be honest with players, and his system. I think both Rob and Christian can be freed up to play their games a little bit more, is something that I'm really looking forward to. To me, Christian Lander's got to guard. He's got to be able to stop the bounce, and he's got to be strong, and he's got to be able to stop the drive, because if it doesn't matter how good he is offensively, if he's letting guys drive to the rim and putting Indiana in rotation, and I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't get a lot of run last year, because I just don't think he could guard. I thought he gave effort, but there's a difference between effort and execution. You can play hard and still not get the job done. So for me, he's going to have to guard. Jay?
I just want Christian to get back to the point where he's not overthinking everything on the basketball court. I mean, everything last year looked so robotic, and it wasn't just him, but especially him. He looked like he was constantly thinking, okay, where should I be? Where should the next pass go? Do I need to go here? Do I need to do this? He needs to get out and play basketball. He's incredibly talented. He was very successful high school and AAU player. You don't get ranked like he was and be bad at basketball. So he's a very good player. He's got to get back to just doing the things he can do well and quit overthinking everything on the basketball court.
That brings us to Jordan Geronimo. And for me, it's his ability to score off the bounce, because I think he's okay shooting right now, and I think he's got some decent post moves. But I think if he's going to play the 4 and you're going to play a little bit smaller, he's going to have to go off the bounce. Jay, your thoughts on Geronimo?
Yes, I mean, he showed he could defend bigger players last year, but I want to see him do that consistently. I mean, Iowa's not the toughest team sometimes to defend if you can let Garza get his and take away some of the shooters. But I just want to see what kind of improvements he makes, because we all know what kind of ceiling Geronimo has, and it's a really high one. I want to see what he's done over the offseason to really kind of build those skills that he needs to be a successful Big Ten player.
Alex?
Yeah, quickly. I mean, I'll say just rebounding for him. I mean, we talk about all these guys, like what are they going to do, like in terms of their offensive game. There's only so many shots to go around with this team next year, and I think if Geronimo is going to carve out a role for himself, he's got to pick one or two things that he's going to do exceptionally well and carve out a role as a result of those things. And I think rebounding is a thing that he obviously has the athleticism and the size and strength to be good at it. He's just got to, I think he's got to do a better job in that area. So that would probably be the thing that stands out most to me. I mean, I agree with you that I'm not too worried about him as a shooter, but then again, I also wonder like how many shots is he realistically going to get in a game. So I think if he wants to play, he's going to have to, do the little things, make the hustle plays to keep himself on the court. I mean, not too dissimilar to what we saw kind of with Juwan Morgan and OG their freshman year when they kind of played those roles as freshmen. It wasn't like those guys were coming in and lighting it up and taking a lot of shots. They were doing making the hustle plays and doing the little things, defending, rebounding. That kind of kept them on the court.
And next is Trey Galloway. Jay, your thoughts on his improvement?
Yeah, Trey is the biggest question mark on the roster for me, probably, because I'm not really sure where he fits in. I'm not sure where he gets minutes unless he can hit an open jump shot. I mean, he was just such a minus on the offensive end of the court last year, and until he can step out and hit a shot, I don't know which of these guys he's going to play over.
Alex?
I agree with Jay 110%. I mean, I thought they were a little ambitious at times last year with his minutes. That's not a criticism of him in any way, and not to say that he didn't deserve the minutes that he got. I just thought that offensively he was hard to watch at times, just with some of the shots that he took and how badly they missed. So. If he wants to, I mean, this is a numbers game. I mean, look at the roster. If he wants to play next year, he's going to have to be able to down an open 3-pointer. If he can't, then I just don't see a huge role for him next season.
His strengths are his ability to get out in transition and run the floor. I don't know that was utilized very well. And he was very good at straight line driving, which Indiana did not have. And I think that's why he got minutes. But he needs an alternate moves. He needs to be able to stop going to the right and cross over and bring it back left. And maybe even, if he's not a 3-point shooter, maybe hit a pull-up shot or something. But everything was hard baseline. And then he'd jump in the air, and sometimes a team started scouting that, and he had some turnovers. And then obviously I think he and Leo both have to get better defensively as well, and that'll come with time. And that brings us to Anthony Leo, whose greatest strength is shooting. But I will tell you this, I thought his position on defense was fantastic. Anything where he got beat defensively was because he just wasn't quick enough. And his post feeds, passing, those are some areas where he might be able to find some minutes. But I think he's like Trey, guys, where he's going to be fighting for minutes because some of the other guys are going to be able to do some things and be more athletic. But his ability to knock down shots in certain situations and his ability to feed the post were his best assets last year. But he's going to have to get better as well on the bounce and being a creator for others. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have concerns whether or not he can shoot, but there's a difference between being able to shoot and being able to make shots in high pressure situations when somebody's coming at you and guarding you. And that to me, that was the thing he didn't do well enough last year. Otherwise, he would have played more than he did. That to me is my biggest question with him is, when he gets in there and gets his opportunity, because it's not like he's going to get 25 or 30 minutes a game to kind of get his feet under him. He's going to have to be ready when he comes in to catch the ball and make a shot. And if he doesn't consistently, then it's going to be hard for him to get on the court. One thing I will say about Anthony Leal is I've always had a great work ethic, and he's going to have, I think, a really productive summer. So I think long term he projects to be a very productive player at the college level. I just don't know if it's going to really come to fruition this next season. But I do think, bottom line for him is you get in the game, you catch the ball, you better be able to, if you're open, you better be able to make the shot, or you don't really have anything else that's differentiating you from anybody else on the roster, particularly in the backcourt. It's a crowded situation.
Jay, your thoughts on Leal?
Yeah, Leal's a little bit like the opposite of Galloway for me. I mean, what Leal's going to bring on the offensive end. He can catch the ball and shoot the ball. But on the defensive end, he's got to be a contributor. He's got to be able to stay in front of his man, and the people are going to attack him when he's in the game. So until he can show that he can, stop drives, that he can help out, I think that's going to be his biggest detriment from seeing consistent playing time.
And so we're down to the two incoming freshmen. I'll wrap that up real quick so we can get moving to the third segment. Logan Duncombe and Tamar Bates. Bates is probably likely to get a lot more playing time. He's athletic. He can shoot. He's a dynamic scorer. Duncombe, you're going to love Duncombe. I know coaches who coached against him in Cincinnati, and he's got a great heart. He's a great offensive rebounder, has quick feet. Defensively, he can shoot off both hands already. And Cincinnati Moeller has put their last two centers they sent to college are in the NBA right now. The Hayes kid from Texas, and the name of the other one escapes me. So the line of centers from Cincinnati Moeller has been quite impressive. I saw both of these at breakfast. I was in Bloomington a couple of weeks ago, and they both need to add some pounds and some strength in the weight room. Cliff Marshall's already got them working on it. So we'll see where they end up. But I imagine Tamar Bates is going to get a lot more run, and I'm really excited about seeing him. So coming up here on the third segment, we'll do some subscriber shout-outs that answer your non-basketball or basketball questions, plus Jay's mediocre question with a mediocre answer since he's here live. So stick around with us here on the Assembly Call. All right, Alex, that went long. If at any time you need to go, you are free to go. We're going to wrap this up here. So
I'm good. I'm good for a little bit longer.
We'll get this going here right away. So here we go with.
I need a beer. I need a beer from Jay.
I got plenty. Come on over.
Nice basement now. All right, fellas, here we go.
Hi, this is James Blackman Jr. I never miss an open three, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call. Go Hoosiers.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Alex Bozich and Jay Horry as we get into segment three. And segment three means only one thing.
Subscriber shout out, subscriber shout out.
Our first subscriber shout-out comes from Race Thompson's hometown of Minneapolis. It's Carlos Diego Garcia, who recently moved to Minneapolis from Bloomington. Carlos' favorite Hoosier is Isaiah Thomas. Carlos was 12 in 1981, has been a lifelong fan since then. Others in the mix, Winston Morgan, Jay Edwards, and Victor Oladipo. For his Assembly Call leader, Carlos, it's Jared. And Carlos' special acknowledgement is this: no more violence, love, peace to all. Thanks, Carlos, for your support. The second subscriber shout-out comes from Valerie Elliott in Indianapolis, one of our long-tenured listeners and Jim's better half. Valerie's favorite Hoosier of all time is Kent Benson. Her Assembly Call leader is also Jared, about whom she says he seems to be on the same wavelength as me. And for her special acknowledgement, Valerie gives it to Dane Fife, saying, quote, he said everything I said IU basketball needs in his press conference. Culture, culture, culture. They need to learn what the beast that IU basketball is and what the fan base is and what it expects. So thank you, Valerie, again for your support. And now it's time for the rest of our mailbag, and questions were submitted via our private IU basketball discussion community, which you can learn more about and join at assemblycall.com/community. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good articles, a lot of good contributions in our community. So
it's not that good, but it's not that bad. It's Jay's mediocre question.
All right, we got the mediocre question live tonight, everyone. Fire away, Alex, and I will try to mediocrely answer it.
Well, nobody told me I was going to have to ask a question. I mean, I don't. If I don't have time to prepare, what am I supposed to do?
Aren't you a lawyer?
Guys?
You're supposed to be able to think on your feet as a lawyer.
Oh, see, now I'm stalling for time, so that works too. Let's see here. What's been going on? All right, Coach. You said you were just in Bloomington. What's let me hear your perfect Bloomington day.
Man, I think Mrs. T and I almost had it. Keep
it PG too. Let's keep it PG. Maybe PG-13.
Yeah.
Let's
No, we just a couple things. One, go to some good places to eat. Stroll around campus. Appreciate the campus. For me, it's just it's a big part of being down there in Bloomington. I know the people who live down there. The city. There's a lot to offer in the city as well. But for me, it's a couple of my favorite restaurants, which would be Buffalo's, Mother Bear's for lunch. Stop by the Tap in between after a walk around campus. Then go to Zagreb's for a nice steak dinner, and then go to Nick's, maybe Bluebird. Here's some Clayton Anderson when he's in town. That would be a perfect day. I've been down for a taste of Bloomington before. Love those kinds of things. And it's my retirement site. It's my dream retirement place in the next, 5 to 10 years when I can retire from teaching and coaching. You'll find me permanently at Nick's probably. So that's your Alex. You want to answer his mediocre question?
I mean, my perfect day is just walking into Assembly Hall for a game that actually means something, which hopefully Indiana can get back to because there hasn't been a lot of those. Obviously, last season I didn't go to any games, and I'm just looking forward to my perfect day is, I still remember walking into Assembly Hall December 10th, 2011 for that Indiana-Kentucky game. Like just the feeling of being in that building. To me, I mean, there's so many great things about Bloomington, obviously just walking around campus and enjoying just scenery. And I mean, I feel like that of itself is a different experience every time, just, getting a chance to walk around and see all the buildings and everything there. And there's definitely a lot of great restaurants. Malibu Grill is probably my favorite in Bloomington that I like to go to. But just to me, the perfect day is just walking into an assembly hall that's completely packed, and there's a different energy and different feeling in the building. And hopefully we can have those days again really soon.
Very good mediocre question. Can you have a very good mediocre question? Is that possible?
Those are the only kind of mediocre questions I have, Coach.
Yeah. Elbows In says, anyone from Assembly Call going to Atlantis? And can I buy you all a few beers when we're there? I'm not sure. I'm not able to go. I wish I could. I'd like to see the Hoosiers play in their first thing. But Elbows In, you can send us money. I'll send you my PayPal, and I'll take a $10 for a couple of beers or something. Anytime you want to buy me a beer, I'll even drive to meet you somewhere for a beer. Terrence Harper says this. And Alex, I'll throw this your way. Since the first segment we talked about recruiting, we've been hearing a lot of positive comments from visiting prospects the last few days, which we talked about. Do you think Coach Woodson will actually land any? And if so, it seems like he's going after some top 50 recruits, which are always competitive. Maybe you want to. Do you think there is a favorite of those the guys who have visited or called, or maybe a number of those guys, or what would be success in your mind of bringing these top guys in this summer as far as who we land?
Well, the hardest thing to figure out about this is you don't necessarily know how many spots or how many guys they want to take because we don't know for sure how many roster openings there's going to be next season because of the free year of eligibility and how that's kind of set guys' eligibility clock back. Of the guys that have visited this month so far, the 3, I mean, I think you're doing pretty good if you land one of those guys, to be honest with you, because they're all, they're not say they're all similar, but they're all front court players, and they're all, I think Caleb Banks, once the rankings that are updated after the summer, is going to be a top 100 kid. The other 2 are obviously already there. So, I think they've already got, a lot of people forget, they've already got CJ Gunn committed. So there's one spot. They can, to me, if they can get 2 more by the time the signing period comes in November, I think they're in pretty good shape. I don't know necessarily that they'd want to do more than that, but just based on the sheer numbers and not knowing what's going to be available. And the other thing that I've kind of in the back of my mind that I've thought about is just in college basketball in general, how many programs are going to want to have more than 3 freshmen coming in a given year anymore because of the transfer portal, right? If you see a need for your program moving forward, it may be easier just to go in the transfer portal and get that player rather than waiting for a guy to develop. So I think the days of bringing in these 5 or 6 man freshman recruiting class are probably numbered as far as college basketball goes. You may see it on occasion, but I don't think it's going to be the norm anymore.
Yeah, freshmen are kind of, to me, freshmen are kind of like draft picks. They're really great in theory, and in practice, sometimes they just don't work out. And so, you hear about all these NBA teams, they want to trade for draft picks and everything. But once those picks are actually made, those draft picks those go down with a lot of value because the unknown is always more valuable theoretically than the known.
Yeah, and the one thing with recruiting is I try not to get wrapped up in the close losses as seeing that as defeats. Alex and I talked at the beginning of this podcast. I think Coach Woodson's doing a heck of a job with these visits and getting these guys in here and talking to them honestly. But if that's not what someone wants and there's some better fit, that's not necessarily reflective of the IU program. And sometimes we get so caught up in it's a win versus a loss recruiting wise. I think there's some there's some issues with that. And I heard an interesting thing today, fellas. AJ Guyton had Coach Roberts on talking, and they were talking about the portal. And he said that you're going to see a lot of teams start getting those freshmen that hit the portal because it's going to be harder for them to transfer out after that. I think they can still transfer, but now they have to sit out their second transfer. They have to sit out a year. And so, you might not see as many freshmen, but you're watching that mid-major or the major programs that had freshmen that didn't play, and those freshmen that come in the portal, if you feel they're going to fit your system and are coachable, you bring them in. That might be the new, quote, freshman class. It'll be freshmen who have already played a year. So I think recruiting is just up in the air, fellas, as far as with this portal on what you're going to see as far as who gets recruited and what recruiting looks like in the future. Alex, any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, I agree with what Jay said that, it's great to, recruiting, obviously drives a lot of what I do with my website, and people are tremendously interested in it. But at the same time, now with this portal, if you can go get a kid that's already proven it at the college level for a couple of years and he's a known commodity, and the fact that, we've seen this more and more this year, there's Big Ten kids transferring within the conference. So it's not like you can only go get certain guys. You can really go get anybody. So I think that it's definitely going to be something moving forward where particularly, some of the top programs are going to be picking off kids from other schools every year and bringing them in to fill specific needs, because it's really hard to win with freshmen in college basketball unless you're getting the absolute best ones. And so I think you're going to want to be really strategic about who you're bringing in on a given year, and you want to have a couple spots open when that portal does open in the spring, because there's going to be good names hitting it. I mean, there's, I think, 1,600 names in there this year, and Indiana got 3 of them. that we're all talking about on the show tonight as players who are going to be important pieces in next year's team. So I don't understand why this won't be the norm going forward. I think it's going to be.
You're going to have a tab, Alex, that is a portal tab, portal recruiting board instead of the 2022, 2023 recruiting board. You're going to have to, expand and hire someone just to search the portal for you.
And I also think the portal and the way the recruiting system's kind of changing puts a lot more emphasis on the kids that go to the prep schools, that go to Montverde, that go to IMG, because those kids are in a college-like program already. And so being able to get some kids that play, and now there's talk of those kind of elite prep schools, La Lumiere being another one, that are going to form kind of their own conference and play each other throughout the year. Those kids are basically in college programs right now. So if you can get kids from those programs, they're going to be a step ahead than the kid that's just at a typical high school.
Excellent. Okay, we got a couple questions left. Jesse says, posting this here because I don't know where else to go with it, so I'm totally fine if it's not discussed. Well, we're going to do it. I've seen the same question elsewhere, but I've never seen the answer. Since the day Archie was fired, it seems like he's totally disappeared. Don't most coaches release a statement of some kind, regardless of whether they choose to leave themselves or get fired? It has also become 100% clear to me why he didn't succeed at IU, which we kind of mentioned earlier as well. No connection with the fan base whatsoever. It feels so different now in a very good way. Alex, any thoughts? It has been a little different that he was coaching and then let go, and there's just been no word or nothing out there about him. And any thoughts on that for Jesse?
I mean, he didn't necessarily go out of his way to talk when he was the coach at Indiana. So now that he's no longer employed and I'm sure is enjoying his free time or whatever he's doing now, I don't necessarily, unless he's trying to get back in to coaching, there's no real incentive for him to say or do anything. I mean, people are asking to hear from him now. I don't know what they think he's going to say that's going to be all that interesting or all that insightful at this point. I mean, he lost his job. I'm sure that wasn't great for him on a personal level, and we'll hear from him again when he gets a job, inevitably, whether that be next season, not this coming season, but the following season. But I mean, I don't. I've had that question too. I just don't really think it's all that weird that he hasn't said anything, because I'm not saying that he wasn't, like, every time we had an interaction with him, he always answered the question, but you could tell like he wasn't necessarily all that thrilled that he had to answer the questions. So I don't know why he would go out of his way right now to make a statement or do an interview. That's just not kind of his personality. Crean was obviously different, or he wanted to kind of get back in immediately and sell him. I just don't think Archie cares that much. So not all that surprising that he hasn't said anything to me. Jay,
when you get fired, you're pissed off too. So it's sometimes better not to make a statement that you want to be hired again in a year or two. So you might just go take your money, hit a beach somewhere, and get back in the game when you need to. It's a tough gig, college basketball. If you're not good and you get let go, it's a tough situation. Sometimes it's better to be silent, in my opinion.
Yeah, do we not remember Crean having Pete Thamel and Bob Kravitz come stay at his house and then give like glowing interviews about how Crean was screwed over by IU? I mean, that happened. That literally happened. 4 years ago, whatever it was. So I'm fine with that not happening again. And hell, if somebody wants to pay me $10 million and never talk to you guys again, let's do it.
I'll take that deal now.
Yeah, Jesse, I hope that was. I don't know. I wouldn't talk. It's happened to me at the high school level. I did answer reporters' questions, but I took the high road and said two sentences and got out of the way. It's just something like, if you want to get hired again, you just got to be careful not saying what you really want to say, unless it's with your buddies on the golf course.
It looks like Archie's moved to a very nice house down in the south somewhere. Has a view of mountains. He might have moved down to. He might be Arizona. Yeah, that's what I say. He has a mountain view with a pool. So, I mean, I think he's doing just fine.
Yeah. And the last question, Richie says, let's talk about uniforms. I'm a traditionalist and want IU to go back to the piping on the jerseys from the Knight era. but I'm okay with adding names to the back of the jerseys, but really I could care less about uniforms if we just win. What are your guys' takes on uniforms? Alex?
I think they should ask the players and recruits what they would most like to wear and do that instead of worrying about, obviously there's got to be some tradition that's kept, but at the same time, like, isn't it ultimately about the players and the guys that are putting on the uniform in terms of getting them excited about, wearing the uniform? This whole thing about like having to preserve tradition and can't do any alterations to the uniform, to me is just silly. I mean, times change, things change. I'd like to see at least a little bit of leeway given to break away from some of the traditions. I'm not saying throw away the candy stripe pants or take away all the elements of the uniform, but if they want to wear alternates on occasion, or you want to get input from the players and things like that, I'm totally fine with that.
Jay, uniforms.
I could not care less about what the uniforms look like. If the players like them, if they're attractive, if they want to play in them, that's completely okay with me. I really could not care less.
I'm old-fashioned, and I'll speak for the older groups. I like traditional uniforms from all of the teams that I support. I'm not a big fan of alternate jerseys, but it's not about me, and that's the thing I would say to fellow fans. It's about the young men who are coming to play for Indiana, and in this era, what you wear is important. We can argue and get off my lawn as old people all we want about that's not what it should be like, but that's what it is. And if kids need an alternate uniform or these videos and stuff, it might not be Coach Tonsoni's ideal thing, but you know what Coach Tonsoni's ideal thing is winning. And if these kids wear an alternate uniform and beat Purdue by 20, let's wear the alternate uniform against Purdue every damn time we play Purdue. I mean, it ultimately comes down to recruiting guys in and doing what the young men, young women in the athletic programs want to do. And as long as it's not taken away from school colors or changing things in a wild, crazy fashion, but you can have an alternate uniform that still has some of the traditional items on them. So to me, it's about getting Indiana basketball back to where it should be and sooner rather than later. So Alex and Jay, appreciate you guys being on tonight. We're going to wrap it up tonight and send you guys on your way.
That's it. We're done. No more questions.
Yep. Thanks, Ryan, for your participation tonight. And so that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for producing a lot of the music that you hear on the show. And thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next week or sooner if any news breaks.
Take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
You might get beat today, but each day you got to get better.
All right. Thank you, everyone, again, for joining us. Again, thanks, guys, for coming on and filling in during the summer. And I hope you enjoy your summer and your new basement, Jay. It looks nice. I'm going to have to stop by for sure now.
Yeah, get on the road, get down here.
Yeah.
Are you in Indy, Jay?
Yeah, I'm on the north side. I'm like just across the Hamilton County line. So I'm at like 101st and the Monon, basically.
Okay.
So kind of between Meridian and Keystone.
I'm glad we didn't get into a 20-minute conversation about uniforms because I, like you, don't really care. Just whatever whatever the players want to wear. It's
like the names in the back thing. It's like I really don't care. Some of these kids do care. They want their names on the jersey. Yeah. I mean, they might be the first person in their family that's gone to college. I mean, they want to there was a kind of a big blowback when they took the name off the football players' jerseys for a year.
Especially with name, image, and likeness becoming a thing. Like, why? I mean, I'm not saying put the names on the back of the jersey, but at the same time, I wouldn't be. It seems like there's some people that seem like they'd be offended by that. Like it's some. Like there's something wrong with it, and that's majority of programs have that, and reality is, these kids want a way to promote themselves and things like that. So that's it's
Well, part
it seems
of
like
our
this conversation
strength is
comes up every year.
It does. Part of it is our strength is our greatest weakness too. Part of the strength of Indiana basketball is its tradition, and some people hang on to pieces of the tradition. The tradition should be playing good, hard defense, some motion offense, and winning basketball games and getting to the Elite Eight, Final Four. That should be the tradition, and good academics and all that kind of stuff. The uniform stuff can be stretched a little bit, and that's from a guy that when I watch my baseball team, I just like pinstripes. I don't like blue tops, or if the White Sox, I prefer them in their pinstripes rather than their pinstripes with the black tops. That's just me. But
I'm kind of surprised IU hasn't done it just from a money perspective. I mean, you look at the NBA and Major League Baseball, all these alternate uniforms. It's like, why not do it for a game or two? And just, if you come up with something that people really like, you can sell a ton of the uniforms. I mean, that's a huge thing.
Those false imprints on the back with like buildings or something that are famous on campus. So that went through 3 or 4 years ago, where several schools had that kind of embedded in the print of their traditional style uniforms. Indiana could do some of that.
I feel like Adidas tends to be a little behind Nike and
right.
Obviously Jordan
was
brand,
Nike, wasn't it? Yeah.
Every time they come up with I remember like in the past, every time they've come up with like an alternate uniform for like the postseason or tournaments, like it's been like so ridiculously ugly that of course Indiana wasn't going to wear it. Like some of the uniforms that they gave Louisville that they wore, I'm like, I mean, that's not something. It's one thing to change it a little bit and make it look a little different, but like when you do like these bright colors and things like that, that was never going to be accepted.
Although I think Louisville won a title with like the no longer counts, but they won a title in some of those ugly uniforms. So
they did.
Sign me up for that.
So it didn't stop them. It didn't stop them from winning. So
yeah, it's crazy that you don't have to have traditional uniforms to be successful.
Alex, you haven't heard anything about it's going to be 100% in Assembly Hall. I know the county has been a little tight on releasing. The baseball didn't get to do anything. You haven't heard anything about anything different than 100%.
I think the first thing we'll hear is football, right? I mean,
yeah, I know they're planning on it, but planning on it and then being able to do it, I haven't heard anything from where I'm at, but I'm not around very much. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I just assume at this point, like all of the all the baseball stuff and NFL, I'm sure is going towards 100%. Right. I mean, I think some Big Ten schools, like Illinois, I saw 100% for next season. And in terms of their on-campus athletics, I would think that
we'd have to, right?
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, they're preparing like it's going to be 100%. So unless something goes horribly wrong, I would expect it to be 100%.
Good. I need to tailgate again.
God, it's been way too long.
2 years is too long.
Yeah, it takes a pandemic for IU football to be top 10 in the country, and none of us can actually go see them. So,
yeah.
Is their first game at Iowa? Is that right?
Yeah. Hey, Coach, you got a hotel room? Did you say?
Yes.
Where are you staying?
Oh my goodness! It is in Coralville, which is just north of Iowa City, across the interstate. And I want to say it's let me look at my itinerary here real quick if I can find it.
I think I convinced my wife to spend our anniversary weekend in Iowa City, so I think she's really excited about that. Yeah,
that's just great.
Not saying how I convinced her, but
I've stayed in Coralville before. It was like I think I stayed at like a Residence Inn or something.
There's the graduate hotel right downtown that it's not terribly expensive. I mean, it's not super cheap, but it's not like $300 or anything. It's a decent price.
Well, where in the heck?
Coach, you need me to hold your phone up this far away from you, or?
Dude, you guys are young. I'm old.
What is that, like 4.5 or 5 from Indy?
Yeah.
I don't know how far it is. Is it that far?
It's a pretty easy drive, just up and around Chicago and then straight over.
Do you have to, Coach? Do you have to come down to Indy then drive over, or I don't?
No, I just go north on 65. Kathy Amos is staying at Homewood Suites,
Well, doesn't Kathy live there?
She lives in Des Moines.
Oh, that's right.
But she's coming in and staying at Homewood Suites on Saturday night. That's nice. Not showing up. St. Louis in a couple of weeks is showing up for a Cardinals game.
Jay, I think you'd probably just go over through like Terre Haute and Champaign that way.
Yeah, on up.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Yeah, I forget where we. I think we go. Yeah, I think we go through Champaign and then up. Yeah.
I'll have to look in my email to get my receipt.
No worries. I once drove from Louisville in the same season. I once drove from Louisville to Iowa City, and then also in that same season, I drove from Louisville to Omaha because Indiana played out there that was the green. It was the year before they won the Big Ten. They played Wichita State.
Yep.
It's a pretty boring drive.
Yeah, I thought about flying just because I'm lazy, but I was like, time you drive it. It's
yeah. I mean, you have to connect. I'm sure through Chicago. So
yeah, I'm guessing there's probably no direct flights to Are you going out Friday, Coach?
Yeah, I'm going to go out Friday. Probably after school. Leave at 3:30. Get there at 8.
Okay.
Hampton Inn.
Okay.
It was at Hampton Inn in Coralville, which is just right off the exit north of whatever the interstate is there.
And I know Galen's coming too, so I've been trying to coordinate with him because we talked about getting like an Airbnb, but there aren't really any good Airbnb options in Iowa City. So
yeah, because the road that this hotel is on, you just go south a few blocks, and the football stadium's just down around the left, and tailgate spots right there. So
okay.
Yep, Kathy's on that road just south of the interstate at Homewood Suites. And then the 2-night one, it's north. I've stayed there before when I've gone to Iowa. I really, really enjoy it. Just make sure I hit confirm on those reservations.
Yeah, no. Who's gonna get all of our tickets so we can? Is there gonna be like an IU section? There usually is a visitor section, right?
Yeah, you can go through. The ticket agency there at Bloomington.
Oh,
I haven't done that yet. Kathy's got 4, and I'm going to try to get 4 as well, and then we're going to see where we're at. So
yeah, I got my football season tickets are through Galen, so I got to talk to him about that.
Yeah. So
should be a fun trip.
Yeah. There it is. Okay, I did hit confirm. That sucks getting old, guys. You youngins.
Shit, Alex is older than me.
What are you talking about? I got a partially ruptured Achilles, and you're talking about you getting old. Come on, man. I'm old. I'm getting old too.
Oh man,
Alex, what year did you graduate?
2000.
Okay, so yeah, you missed me by a year, I guess. Then yeah.
Holy cow!
Were you 2003?
No, it was 2005.
Okay, 2000.
Was Maggie 2003 or 2? Okay,
2. Yeah, but when I was there, it was still just 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah, I was I was the last sophomore class to come up. Freshmen came up with me. I did my freshman year at Scribner, and then the 8th graders came up, or the freshmen came up when I was a sophomore. So.
Gotcha. I went to Hazel.
So I could have been your all's econ teacher. I was teaching econ in 2000 and 2005. You guys. All right.
Yeah, I knew Maggie from tennis because my mom was a tennis coach or assistant tennis coach.
Yeah, your mom was my math teacher. So.
She was mine as well. Talk about hell on earth having your mom as senior year math teacher.
She's not still teaching, is she?
No. She retired probably a decade ago, maybe.
Okay.
Very good.
Back when Indiana forced out all the teachers that had too much seniority, they threatened to take away their health benefits if they kept teaching.
I got my start under Jim Shannon.
No shit.
Coaching. I was at Lebanon High School when he was at Lebanon, And I was 8th grade coach, 9th grade coach, and then his one of his varsity assistants for 2 years. And I remember we were at team camp with the 11th and 8th graders when he got offered the New Albany job. And he said, "Brian, do I take it?" I'm like, "Man, Jim, don't even think not." I mean, when
that's
a once in a lifetime job.
Yeah, when Unruh became athletic director, yeah.
He went to the same high school as my mom, so my mom's known him since they were. He went to Anderson, so that's where my mom went to. I always joke with Coach Shannon that I played JV my sophomore, and he came to New Albany as a junior. I didn't try out that year. I always joke with him that I quit because he came to Indiana, or he came to New Albany, but. He's
I tell you,
he's won a ton of games.
Yep. I owe him if I know anything and get any credit for the 10 years I was a head coach and the other 10 years been assistant. He taught me everything. Great work ethic, attention to detail, scouting and being able to break down tape. Just tremendous influence in my life as a young coach. I was really proud and happy when he won the state championship because I know how hard he's worked and all the spots he had. And
New Albany not winning the state title for 40 years was pretty wild considering all the good teams they had.
Yep.
I mean, especially back in the 90s, they probably should have won 2 in the 90s. The Whitehead season and then the Chad Hunter Lamont Rowland season.
Yes, they were really good that year.
Lost in triple overtime to on a half court shot against, was it Ben Davis? I think. You remember that, Alex? It was like 97 or something.
Yeah, and the Laudrell Whitehead year, they called a travel or something when he hit it.
God, that was the worst call I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God. I was 5 and still remember it. It was like 1992 and I was 5. And I was in tears because he caught the ball in the wing and they said he shuffled his feet and he drilled a 3-pointer that would have given us the lead and they called traveling. I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
I feel like the teams from Southern Indiana back before it was, when it was just a one class system, the way I liked it. But when they would get up to state or whatever, I felt like they always didn't get the best whistle from the officials. And
jeez, no, it was rough.
It kind of been like Indiana All-Star stuff too. It was like there were certain kids from Southern Indiana. It was like they were always really good, but it was like you'd get my grandpa. Was from Anderson, and I remember going to the Hall of Fame Classic with him every year, and would just talk about how all these players from the North Central Conference and all these Indianapolis kids were so much better than the kids from the South. And I think that was the mentality of the Indianapolis and area of this is they looked at Southern Indiana and those areas as not having as good a basketball, and so it felt like every time they got to state, they had to prove something.
That was that way up north, too, because I'm from the region and the Duneland Conference up there, the Maryvilles, the South Bend area, Gary schools felt that way about Indianapolis, too, that you're so far away from the main media. And then that North Central Conference was so popular that you kind of felt. I remember Delray Brooks. This will age me. Delray Brooks was I played against Delray in high school, that they felt they got some raw deals as they moved on down in the tournament and so forth. So
yeah, Alex, you remember that
makes it true.
Yeah. Alex, you remember, I think you would have been in high school, I think, with the Kenitra Johnson team, the New Albany ladies team that went undefeated and won. And Kenitra was by far the best player in the state, went to UConn and didn't win Miss Basketball because April McDivitt, who's now Ed Schilling's wife somehow, I think.
Yeah.
That whole thing's fascinated me. But Kenitra didn't win. I was at that semi-state game and was one of the most amazing performances when we played. I think she was at McCordsville, I think, or something. And New Albany played McCordsville, and Kenitra had 48 points or something, and just was one of the best displays of basketball. She was so pissed off that she didn't win Miss Basketball. Oh
yeah, I remember that.
All right, fellas, I'm gonna have to.
Me too.
Get this stopped and get moving on. Again, thank you.
Pass along our love to Mrs. Tonsoni. Hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, she's recovered fine. We got great reports, Jay. It's just been it was real tough, to go through and have to take her through that. But we got good reports this week from all her doctors. And so now it's just, some additional recovery. But thank you. It's meant the world. This group here and a lot of people here locally really stepped up to help us. So, it's what makes this country really good. When we get past all the division and all that stuff, people take care of people. And I can't say enough about the Assembly Call family, the guys and the people in the chat mob. It wasn't an easy 10 days, but we got through it. So thanks, Jay.
Good. Absolutely.
All righty, everybody. Peace. Take care. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.